Welcome Raiders to another Raid Shadow Legends video. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is probably my first raid video on this channel. Please watch the video before this one that will let you know what happened. I'll get a little bit more in depth, but let's get right into this. You know, I was a little sad, but you know what? You can't stop. If there's always new champions and always new things happening in raid, you gotta be up to date. So let's look at this. Is defensive legendary Spirit Affinity Lysanthir Beastbane is going to be the new Fragment Fusion Summon. That's right, it's an FFS, not a TS. TF, Traditional Fusion. It's not going to be a Fragment Summon how we thought. They're going to make the Ludix, which I think is kind of like a Easter egg. We'll get to when I talk about that in the next video. But that he has very similar name and looks very similar to a Dark Souls tutorial boss. But anyways, this one, let's look at the A1. Is he actually going to be a good defensive support or nuker? Let's look at it. A1 is Echo Bolt. Attack one enemy 2 times. The first hit has a 75% chance of placing a Hex debuff on the target for 2 turns. That's pretty good. The first, but I mean, is you don't get to spread it, right? It's not an AoE hit. It's just a single target hit. Hits twice, which is nice. It could be good for like going through UDK, but who's really using UDK that much? Not as much, right? You still see it in like tag and classic, but not as much in live. 4 books there too. Oof, that's a lot. Okay. You have to increase the chance of course, the Hex and of course, the damage. The last part says places an increased crit damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. I think it should have been ignore like another debuff, or maybe a buff like increased speed or increased defense buff since he's a defensive champion. But overall, it's kind of it's whatever. Honestly, it's not that special. It would have been better if it was an A1 AoE A1. Let's look at the A2 Wily Hunter. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Has a 20% chance of repeating the attack. Okay, so it's basically like very similar to the Force Affinity Fushan on the A1, right? But he has it on the A2. But there's something else that says when this champion counterattacks or teams up with allies to attack an enemy, we'll use this skill instead of the default skill. The damage inflicted with this skill increases by 10%. Each time an ally is devoured, stacks up to 50%. Well, that is a 3-turn cooldown, which is good. But once again, it's not AoE, right? It does hit twice. Repeating, you're probably going to get 3 to maybe max 4. Unless you get crazy RNG, you might get 5. But most of the time, it's just going to be 2. Then you get lucky, like Relentless is 3. On it, like a little bit more average, and then 4 is really rare, and then 5 is stupidly rare. So yeah, it's only going to be a 2-hitter basically. They should have made it at least a 1 in 4 chance, right? Why make it a 1 in 5? Make it a 25%. But whatever. Counterattacks, we don't really have a lot of counterattack buffs because Playroom has slowed down on that, so it's not that great. Only mythical champions have AoE counterattack now. And who's really using like Martyr and Valkyrie? Like seriously, unless they're in protection set, maybe. So I guess ally attack is the only other thing with Mikage, maybe Lysanthir on the same faction, right? You could probably use a Lysanthir, probably use the Unity champion High Elf, right? Is it Filna? I call her a different name, but I can't say that here on YouTube, so. But yeah, you could probably use this with a full High Elf kind of team with ally attacks, possibly. Other than that, I don't see like, okay, cool, you get to use this instead of the A1, but like, it's not like it's a 4-hitter and then you get to repeat the attack. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of, and then on top of that, it's not like, it should have been every single time you use a skill, it goes up. But it only gets increased when an ally is devoured. So this is very specific to only Hydra. Unless they're going to release like a Chimera head that can devour us. Unless they're going to release another boss that can devour us. I don't kind of see where the reasoning, or I feel like this champion's like a year too late. All right. Well, that skill seems very, very specific. Just like the first A1. Overall, maybe it nukes. Maybe it's nice and can blow people up, but it has no ignore defense. It has no ignore stone scare. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of meh. So far, this champion looks meh. Let's look at the A3. Ruined snares. Ooh, and attack all enemies 2 times. That looks good. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff and a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. That's really good. Because it's each hit. So that helps out if there's weak affinity. If a target is under a hex debuff, which doesn't make any sense because the A1 does not AoE hex, places these debuffs before attacking. So you have to bring someone else that brings hex. You know what? The A2 should have had something very unique. Like, if the enemy has hex, this champion ignores like 50% of the fucking target's defense, or 50% of the, like, destroys 50% of the max HP or something. Like, I don't know, something crazy. Like, even the synergy kind of seems kind of off. Anyways, so yeah, you get to place these debuffs before attacking if they have hex. So that's a condition there. Same thing with the A2. So there's conditions everywhere except for the A1 so far. Not looking good. But this could be a big nuke because it is a double hitter. Right? And if there's hex, you do put the weaken beforehand, so you might get the 25% extra damage before you smack. The only downside is that having 2 debuffs in live arena or arena in general is a sheepable offense, and it's not that great. Not everybody's using sheep anymore, but still. Also, with 1 coming out, you don't want to AoE decrease your self speed too, you know? That's kind of... but is it a 3 turn? It is, at least it's a 3 turn nuke. So you can argue that this champion is a 1-3-3 champion, which is good. I just feel like the kit's kind of weird. We'd have to see the multipliers. Now, let's look at this passive here. Will ignore life barrier ally protection buffs. That's pretty good for basically only Hydra. Who has life barrier in PvP so far? There might be a mythical champion that has that. But are you going to really use one champion to beat one other champion? It's not even a void, right? You can still weak it. So I don't know, man. Just the anti-ally protection, I feel like Supreme Elhain will do a better job. Other champions will do a better job ignoring that. Or you could just strip it away if it's not protected, right? Or lock them out so they don't do that. Anyways, that's kind of weird. I like this part right here, though. Ooh, increases his champion's defense by 5% for each active buff on this champion, stacked as a 50%. So if you have 10 buffs, you get increases champion's defense. But that's only while buffs are active. This champion doesn't put no buffs on himself. The only buff he puts is the increased crit damage. So I get only 5% extra defense. It should have been increased defense buff. Because then that would scale this too. You'd get instead of 60% increased defense buff, you'd get 65% increased defense buff, right? Because of the passive. So, and the A1. But anyways, I just think it's weird, man. And then he has an aura, increase all defense in battle by 20%. Is this a decent champion for new players coming into raid? FFS is hard. It's hard to do that. Right? Like, you have to get the epics. There's no rares. You have to get the epics. You can't miss any events and tournaments. Maybe one if you're lucky. But you know there's going to be a summer rush. You know there's going to be a champion chase. You know it's not going to be easy. I don't know why they made this an FFS. Could have just done 2 fragment summons. Or traditional fusion, I get it. But I guess they don't want to do another TF. I just feel like this is too much for FFS. He's not that crazy. You know what would have been crazy if you put the AoE hex, AoE decrease speed, and AoE weaken. And then if they're under any other debuff, he would then place these debuffs. So as long as you bring like decreased defense beforehand, like a Ugo, he could go, and because there's debuffs, he would actually place the debuffs first and then smack. That'd be pretty good for Arena and Hydra. I don't understand this champion. I mean, I get it. But at the same time, is it worth? It's a lot of work to go for something that's kind of mid. Then you have to book it. Then you have to book a champion. That's 4 books on the A1, 3 over here. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books in total. That's 1 to 2 extra more than a normal champion in raid. So I don't know, man. It's I would honestly very early to mid game player champion that could definitely help you out if you're like early to mid game, but otherwise I don't see it, man. You got to get the blessing, you got to get the champion gear, you got to get it booked, mastery. You got to do a lot of stuff now in raid that you didn't have to do back then. The only thing, 2 things I can say that is good about this champion is he puts decent debuffs. He has a really good, decent passive. If you bring like a Siffy, if you bring other champions, like a Siffy with this sounds really good, right? You get that 15% extra defense to his nuke, plus that increased defense from Siffy. That's not bad, but he doesn't ignore, nothing ignores defense. So yeah, just overall, man, just kind of weird, man. I wish there could have been a little bit more. I feel like a little bit like almost there, but not there. This seems like a 2023, 2022 legendary. We're in 2025 player. You're gonna have to buff this champion already. It hasn't even come out, and it's already needs a buff. That's crazy. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I give this champion probably like, maybe with the multipliers, I give it like a 7, but without knowing the multipliers and the base speed and the base defense and the free accuracy, I would give this a 5. This is like pretty bad, man. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Lysanthir Beastbane. I'm gonna do another video talking about the next fragment summon that we get for community weeks from Plarium. I'll let you know my thoughts on that. What do you guys think about this? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this content, please subscribe. This is I lost my channel. I did a previous video if you want to watch that, talking about what happened. But I'm back here, so here we go. Thank you, Raiders. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.